All righty, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to get a little sip, and then we'll get started here. So this morning I wanted to share some ideas. The title of the talk is, Whoa, Lighten Up. Ooh, lighten up. And from time to time we talk about this, but you know, we take life so seriously, and sometimes we get so bogged down into the drama and into the tension and the struggle and the strife and all of these things that are going on about us. And we even carry some of that into our spiritual life. You know, we'll set goals for ourselves, goals for our growth, or things that we must do, or classes that we must attend, or all of these things where we simply take that which is supposed to be easy and spontaneous and fun and joyful, and somehow we turn it into a drudgery, and we miss that which we have been seeking. And I think there's a couple things that we want to consider before we go into this. And why do we participate in our own spiritual growth? Why do we come together as community? Why do we study? Why do we do our spiritual practice? Why do we do all of these things? And I think the very simple answer to that is we do that because we wish to have a greater experience of God. Now, we wish to have that experience now. We wish to feel the divine presence in our lives as a very real entity, guiding us, guarding us, loving us, protecting us, encouraging us, cheering us on. And what we want to remember, if that is what we wish to experience, if that is why we participate in our spiritual practice, we're never going to have that in a condition of struggle, in a condition of strife, in a condition of drama. Because we can't find that peace while thoughts of hostility have taken us over, or we have allowed them to take us over. And we can't find that love and experience that love when fear and doubt and hate have consumed us. I remember reading a self-help book. It might have been a Napoleon Hill book years ago, and he related a story about a father and a son who were out working in the fields, and I believe they saw smoke, and it looked like the house might be on fire. And as they started back towards the house, the boy started to very rapidly, in a very scared voice, started to pray the Our Father. And the boy's father turned to him and said, "Son, you're wasting your time." He says, "A scared prayer ain't worth a damn. A scared prayer ain't worth a damn." We're not going to find that which is seeking us and that which we are seeking if we come at it in a sense of stress, in a sense of struggle, in a sense of strife, you know, in a sense of drama, and all of the other things that we experience in our human lives. So that's the first point I hope that you hold on to, you take away from this talk, is what we are seeking is peace. It already exists, and we can't fight our way to it. All we can do is surrender to it. All we can do is to allow ourselves to have the experience of peace. If we put our hand into the ocean and we struggle and try to grab the water, we'll never grab it, because the harder that we squeeze for it, the more we push it out of our hands. We just simply have to put our hands in the ocean and let them be, and experience that ocean. And the same way, we have to immerse ourselves into God's love and into God's peace and into God's joy. The second thing that we want to consider as we go through this is that we have been conditioned as human beings by the society and in the society that we live in to create drama. It's like what does the world do best? It creates drama. Everything has to be dramatic. Everything has to have tension. Everything has to have struggle, or it doesn't work. You know, if you watch any of the shows that are on TV, if you turn on the tube, I mean, the news is just drama after drama after drama. But even the entertainment shows have to have drama. The soap operas are just constant stream of twists and turns and drama. The reality shows are all people arguing and backstabbing and all these things in drama. And even the talent shows, there has to be this great competition of who is going to win and who is going to lose and where is the struggle. Years ago, one of our members in Wilmington invited Lori and I to attend a little writers' circle that was meeting up in Wrightsville Beach. This lady wanted to be a writer, but she didn't want to go to this first meeting all by herself. She wanted us there kind of for moral support as she went to join this group where these writers met. They would meet at the coffee shop out in Wrightsville Beach every Wednesday night. And when we got there, the man who led the group was kind of a complete character in his own right. He had formerly been the editor of a pretty well-known news magazine out of New York. I can't remember whether it was like Time or U.S. News and World Report or something like that. But he had some credentials, and apparently he had retired to the beach and had a scruffy beard and a red bandana tied around his head. Looked like he was going for the Willie Nelson look. And apparently had several martinis before he showed up for the group. So he was just a colorful, interesting character. And the group was mostly ladies sitting, and they had been given an assignment, and the assignment was, you know, they were to write something, and then they would read it to the group, and the group would critique it, and the editor would kind of give his opinion, the feedback to kind of help the group get better. And this one young lady started to read what she had written, and it was kind of like a journal entry, a story of her life, you know, about how she had grown up and the family she was raised in, and these kind of things. And she had read about a half a page, and the editor kind of put his fist down on the table, and in a loud voice said, "Where's the drama? Where's the drama?" And she looked at him and she said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, if you don't lay that drama out, if you don't have that tension there in that first paragraph, if you just don't reach out there and grab your readers and shake them, they're not going to stay with you. They're going to turn the page and they're going to go on to something else." And at the time I thought, well, gee, you know, what an indictment of our society. You know, if there's no drama, if there's no crisis, why, God, people will just turn the page and move on. And later on in life, as I observed it, this might have been like, you know, 20 years ago that this happened. As I observe what we're getting through the entertainment channels, through the media, he was exactly correct. In that maybe that's not the way that it should be, but certainly that is the way that it is. If there's not a lot of drama and there's not a lot of tension, you know, it just doesn't make it in the mainstream media. And that is a reflection of the consciousness of society. That is you know what people are demanding and they're wanting and they've got to have. And we take this need for drama, this need for competitiveness and for struggle and for strife, and we demonstrate it in almost every life. I remember over 30 years ago, one of our children was playing football. It was Pop Warner football. You know, kids 11, 12 years old playing football. And the teams were so well organized that each football team had its own business manager. And the business manager's job for the football team was to come up with ways that the kids could raise money, you know, selling candy bars or stuff like that, that they could raise money in case they did well enough to enter the playoffs. and they had to charter a bus and go somewhere. That each team was going to be financially independent and raise enough money to do this. So here we've taken what should be fun, kids out on the field running around playing football, tossing the ball to one another, doing the things that kids do, and we've turned it into a business. We've turned it into a struggle. We've turned it into a strife. And we do that. Our society does that. We take things that people enjoy doing, and we figure out how to turn them into a business, and we essentially, kind of suck the life out of them. We make it harder than it needs to be. We make it competitive. So what the point here is that if we wish to experience the divine, if that is our purpose in life, is to experience more and more of God, and God doesn't do drama. See, God doesn't do struggle. God doesn't do strife. What does God have to struggle with? What does God have to struggle against? Nothing. What does God have to do that's hard? To the omnipotence, the unlimited power of the universe, what is hard? Nothing. So this whole idea of struggle and strife and competition and backstabbing and all these things that our society is addicted to are a reflection of the consciousness of our society, but they are not a reflection of the consciousness of God. And what you and I wish to do is to experience the consciousness of God. And what that means is, whoa, we got to lighten up. We got to lighten up. We've got to look at ourselves. I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say, well, gee, look at those people out there and how they turn everything into struggle. But that doesn't help me grow. That's me kind of putting off the real the real project at hand, which is, where can I let go of some struggle? Where can I let go of some strife? Where can I just kind of go with the flow? I was out at the Outer Banks this week helping my friend Brian. We're doing a documentary about shipwrecks, so we were filming some scenes on the beach there, and we went down to an area called P Island, P-E-A Island National Wildlife Refuge. And this is just a thin strip of sand. It's a sandbar about a quarter of a mile wide. And if you look at the map, it's sticking out in the ocean about 200 miles out into the ocean. So you're driving down this road, and you look to the left, and there's the ocean, and there's water as far as you can see. And you look to the right, and there's the sound, and there's water as far as you can see. And you're in your car on this little tiny dirt sandbar. And these sandbars have been there for hundreds of thousands of years, and they move and they shift. That's their nature. That's their flow. You see, they move closer to the mainland. They move further out to sea. They move closer to the mainland. They move further out to sea. Storms come and open an inlet. Storms come and close the inlet. Next storm comes and opens an inlet in a different place, and that was their very nature. And of course, the first people who lived there, the Native Americans, they cooperated with things. They went along with the flow. And then when the first Europeans came and settled there, they too went along with the flow. When the first cottages were built, they were built up on stilts. So if the water got high, it would just flush underneath the cottage. As the beach kind of moved one way or the other, people just put new pilings in a new location and moved the house. The houses were made to be moved, and they kind of went with the flow. But then over time, as more and more people came, they wanted to stake out the lots, and they wanted to say, this little piece of shifting sand is mine, and that little piece of shifting sand is yours. And then people had to kind of try and protect what they had, and they had to set up a struggle, and they had to try to stabilize the beach, and they have to pump sand up there, And if a big storm comes and washes it away, then they've got to fight about the money to pump more sand back up there. And then after they pump sand on the beach, the inlet starts to close up because the sand is washing off the beach into the inlet. And then the fishermen can't get their boats out, and then they've got to fight over who's going to pay to dredge the inlet, who's going to do all that. And there's this drama and there's this struggle. And here we are in a place of pristine beauty. We're here in one of the few spots that we have left in the world where you can go and see things as they were hundreds of thousands of years ago. And we, the humans, we have set up this struggle. We have set up this strife. If you look at the Dalai Lama, if you look at the pictures of the Dalai Lama, he's usually smiling, he's chuckling, he seems to be a happy sort of fellow. And here's a man who is leading his country in exile. His country was invaded by another army. His pacifist monks were slaughtered. His monasteries were torn down. And yet he can find it in his heart to chuckle, to smile, to tell people be happy. And in a great contrast of the two cultures of the Western society, in which everything has to be, we've got to be able to figure this out, we've got to be able to do this, we've got to be able to make this work, we've got to work harder, we've got to do all these things, and then you have the Dalai Lama's, kind of easygoing, be happy philosophy of life. A Western psychiatrist went to interview the Dalai Lama, and he says, I believe you Tibetan Buddhists, you probably know more about psychology, of the human psychology, than any group of people, because you've been studying it for so many thousands of years. And perhaps I, as a Western psychiatrist, perhaps I can learn something from you that will help people to experience life differently. So the psychiatrist said to the Dalai Lama, he said, tell me, he said, you've studied people, you've worked with people, you've counseled people. He says, what is it that motivates human beings? Why do human beings do the things that they do? And the Dalai Lama laughed. He chuckled at him. He says, you're asking me? You're asking me if I know why people do what they do? He says, I don't know why people do what they do. People are very complicated. I have no idea why people do what they do. He said, but I can tell you in general, he says, I think that what the basic human motivation is the desire to be happy. And the guy says, that's it? Be happy? And the Dalai Lama said, yep, that's it. Be happy. The fellow said, I've flown halfway around the world and came here to interview you, and your answer is tell them to be happy. And the Dalai Lama said, yep, be happy. And here was the complete conflict, of cultures, if you will. From the Western point of view, it needed to be more complicated than that. We needed to be able to weigh it and analyze it and calculate it and figure it out and put it down into some type of a methodology that we could teach to people so that people could have a better life. And here all he was getting from this man who he thought could represent a tradition that knew more about psychology than any other was that we are all basically seeking happiness. And I thought how wonderful that is, how simple that is, Seek happiness. Now there's a distinct difference between pleasure and happiness. And the Dalai Lama talked about that. We get confused by that which is pleasurable. We think that that's happiness. And we want to continue to seek that which gives us pleasure. And after a while we find out that seeking that which gives us pleasure ultimately causes us pain. So we must learn the difference between pleasure and happiness. And we must seek that which gives us genuine happiness, not just a fleeting pleasure. But if we allow that desire to be happy to be our guide, life becomes very, very simple, If you allow thirst to tell you when you should take a drink, if you allow hunger to tell you when you should eat, life becomes simpler. And if you trust in a desire that God gave you to be happy, if you trust in that and allow that to lead you to it, life becomes simpler. There's a passage in the New Testament that illustrates this. The children wanted to come, and they wanted to be with Jesus according to the story. And his handlers were trying to keep them away. No, this is a very, very holy man, and you can't disturb him. He's got serious work to do. He's got real important business here while he's here on earth, and you can't distract him. And Jesus said, stop holding the children back. Let them come to me. He said, people like these, and he's talking about the children, people like these are the ones that populate the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven. And our society doesn't understand that. We kind of didn't know what to make of that. There was a religious cult in Europe, I think in the 1700s, where people took that literally. That if we wished to be with Jesus, then what we needed to do was to play like little children. And these were adults, and they would go out into the fields, and they would play Ring Around the Rosary, and they would run through the town, and they would play tag, and they would just act like they were 9 or 10 years old. And I don't think that that's the meaning of the parable. Remember, it's a parable. It's a teaching story. Right? And what is the kingdom of heaven? Well, the kingdom of heaven is the experience of the presence of God. That's what the kingdom of heaven is. It's not a far, far away place that we go to when we die. It is the experience of the presence of God. It is here. It is now. Right? In the Gospel of Thomas, it has Jesus saying, the kingdom of heaven is here now, but people do not recognize it. Why don't we recognize it? Well, because we're too serious. Maybe we need to lighten up. Maybe we need to look at this as children. And how do the children look at things? Right? With awe, with wonder, with joy. Everything is fun. Everything is just exciting. Everything is something to just really get up and go for it, you know. I love to watch the little ones when they play so hard that they're sitting on the couch one minute and the next minute they're just sound asleep. They've given that day every ounce of energy that they had. And what were they doing? They were just expressing life. They were just discovering. They were just going around, and everything was magical. You know, an acorn is magical, and a squirrel is magical, and the sunrise and the sunset is magical. And the simplest thing is a toy to come and play with and to express. I remember one time I was in an airport, and I had been flying all night, and I think it was Charlotte. I was coming back from the West Coast and had taken a red eye back, and I don't know if you ever done that, but sometimes you have like a 3 or 4 hour layover in the middle of the night in a connecting airport, and there's nothing there. You know, all the shops are closed. All the restaurants are closed. Everything's closed. The only people there are folks waiting for a connection from the red eye and the people cleaning. You know, the floor buffers are going. Those kind of things. That's all that's going on. And there was a family by the gate, and I was waiting for my flight. I think I was going back to Raleigh at that time, and we were waiting for the sun to come up, and we were waiting for the 6:30 flight. And they had a little girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, and she was traveling with the family. And everybody else was just, trying to find that spot on those hard plastic seats with the arm rests fixed between them that it's just impossible for you to lay down. Everybody's trying to shift their weight around and trying to find the spot where we could just put our head down and maybe let the night pass without too much of a struggle. And this little one had a notebook, a little spiral-bound notebook, and she was drawing in it, and she was making notes to everybody and bringing notes around to everybody. And one time I heard her yell out in a little childish voice, and she said, "Look, free air, free air." And I kind of opened my eyes from my half sleep, and I looked down to where she was. And she had folded the paper up and made a little paper fan, and she was going around and she was fanning everybody in her family with the free air that she had made. And it's this sense of joy and a sense of happiness and a sense of curiosity and playfulness and all of these things that the children can do no matter what the circumstances are. No matter where they are, they seem to be able to find that inner joy, to find that place within them that has that desire to be happy, to express happiness. And they don't need a lot. They don't need a lot of fancy things to do it. They don't need a lot of money to do it. A simple spiral notebook and a pencil is all it took for this little one. So what I'm inviting us to do is I want us to consider in our own lives, in our own spiritual growth, what is it that truly makes you happy? What is it that truly allows you to experience happiness? Not temporary fleeting pleasure, but long-term happiness. What is it that is just absolutely makes you so joyful? You know, when Lori and I were doing the Finding Your Life's Purpose workshops, we would always ask people, you know, what is that one thing that you've wanted to do your whole life but you've never gone and done? And everybody knew. Everybody had an answer. That, you know, another way to ask the question was, if you had enough money to live the rest of your life so that you never had to work again, what would you do? What would you do? What is it that you would do just for the sheer sake of doing it? And people would get in touch with that, and they would find out what that is, and then what they would say is, well, I can't do that. You know, I'll never make a living doing that. Or my family wouldn't love me anymore if I did that. My family would disown me because all of the people in my family are, and you fill in the blank, doctors or lawyers or whatever, you know. And people would immediately begin throwing up all of these blocks as to why they couldn't just go and do that which their inner guide was telling them that they ought to do for happiness. So I invite you this week, you know, find out what it is that you've wanted to do. Find out what it is that you think that will allow you to be completely happy, and find a way to do it simply, and find a way to do it easily. If you desire to paint, well, get a sketch pad and draw something and start. If you desire to sing, then go in the shower and sing. If you want to dance, learn how to dance. Find what that is that has absolutely no necessarily any practical value, but you would do simply for the sheer joy of doing. Awaken the childlike curiosity that we all had. You remember it. We all remember it. When we were little, you know, we just loved to explore. We just loved to find things. We just loved to take things together and make little stories and play for hours and hours and hours with nothing more than a stick and a pile of rocks and a couple of our friends. What is it that you've always wanted to learn? What is it that would fascinate you? Where are the stars in the heavens tonight? Well, we were down at the beach. You know, we could see Mars and we could see Saturn both at the same time in the sky. Sitting out there, looking out over the ocean. How far do the stars go? How many stars are there? What is it that really, really piques your curiosity? Dr. Holmes's mother called him the little question mark, because he was always exploring something. He always had to know. He always wanted to know. And it's that childlike curiosity, I think, and that childlike playfulness that leads us back to that which we are never going to find in struggle and in strife and in drama, but only in peace and in joy and in love. What is the very nature of God? Why did God even make us in the first place? We take things so seriously. because we lose sight of the big picture. Here we have these little barrier islands down off the coast that move and shift. Over the eons, at times they were part of the bottom of the ocean. At times they might have been way up on dry land. And all of that's going to happen again. Over and over and over again. And yet human beings feel the need to be in control, to try to stabilize, to try to drive stakes in the shifting sand and say this pile of dirt is mine and that pile of dirt is yours. And if we step back and look at the big picture, we could say, how silly is that? How silly is that? It is all impermanent. It is all changing. It is all going away. The sand will go away. The people will go away. Someday the earth itself will go away. So why should we take it so seriously? Why shouldn't we turn to that which will endure? That which lasts forever? That which is truly the only thing worth having? Our experience of God. And we'll never get there through struggle. We'll never get there through strife. We'll never get there by trying to work hard. We will get there through joy, through curiosity, through surrender, through trust. We will get there through the qualities of those beautiful people who inhabit the kingdom of heaven, the children. So let's let the child within embrace the God within. And let's let happiness show us the way. And so it is.